Let's do it. So hello and welcome. Welcome to Audit Your Nonprofit Social Media Efforts. We're happy to have you joining us today and truly appreciate you taking time from your busy schedules. My name's Kimberly. I'm part of the QGive team. And if you haven't had the opportunity to work with us before, we are an online fundraising platform dedicated to helping nonprofits raise more money. And part of how we do that is through webinars like this one today. Today's webinar will be about 45 minutes with a Q&A session to follow, keeping our total time together to just about an hour. We will be recording the presentation and sending out the recording and a copy of the presentation, as well as some of the other resources we mentioned. So please be on the lookout for an email from us tomorrow. If you do have questions during the presentation, please pop them into the questions box, and our presenter is ready to go through these and during our Q&A session that follows. And for all of you tweeters, we are live tweeting today's webinar. So highlights are going to be at hashtag QGiveWebinar, and our username is QGive. So we do value our relationships here at QGive, and we are very happy to introduce our partner network to our customers and our friends. And so today we are joined by one of our strategic partners, Achieve. Achieve is a digital agency that specializes in digital tactics for nonprofits specifically, and they do social media advertising, social media management, search engine management, search engine optimization, websites, so much more. For those of you that are familiar with QGive, thank you for working with us. For others, we do have a comprehensive suite of powerful online fundraising tools for donation forms, event registration, text, fundraising, peer-to-peer, auctions, just so much more. And together, we partner with Achieve, so QGive and Achieve enjoy helping nonprofits like yours make smart and digital fundraising marketing decisions. Today, we are joined by Erica, the Director of Marketing at Achieve. And Erica, as you will hear, has great experience in nonprofit marketing. So without further ado, over to you, Erica.
Thank you so much for that intro, and thank you, everyone. I'm excited to be here today. So as mentioned, we're going to talk about auditing your social media efforts, and we're also going to talk about ways to hopefully avoid some common mistakes that I see lots of my nonprofit clients making all of the time. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. As Kimberly mentioned, my name is Erica Languanti. I'm the Director of Marketing at Achieve, and we are a partner of QGive. At Achieve, we specialize in digital marketing and social media on my end of the house, but then we also have a really great web team that is really excellent at building beautiful nonprofit websites, and we also offer web support. We also offer discounts to QGive clients. We love to partner with QGive, so if you're a client, definitely check us out. It's achievecauses.com/QGive. We're happy to help you. And then today, if social media is having you feeling stressed, which is very understandable. It changes constantly. There's so much going on. We're going to talk about how to get you calm, cool, and collected. We want to use social media as a tool to help support all of your great fundraising efforts and further your mission. So today we're going to talk about how to take inventory of your social media channels. We're going to talk about finding your engagement rate for future benchmarking. This is a step I always take with all of my nonprofits that I work with. We're going to talk about some free tools that you should be leveraging that can help you, and free is always good. We're also going to discuss ways to avoid some common social media pitfalls, and then we're going to ask some questions and hopefully get some answers. So at the end, feel free to chat your questions throughout, and then at the end, we're going to make sure there's lots of time to answer those for you. So first step, we're going to take inventory of your social channels. This is always a really good starting point. If you're coming up with your strategy, it's hard to know where to go if you don't know where you're at. So whenever I sit down with a new client, one of the first things that we always talk about is what channels are you on? And this sounds really simple, and very often it's, well, we post on Instagram and Facebook, and this is what we're doing. But then when I really dive in with them, we uncover all of these extra pages and other channels that maybe aren't being utilized. Well, we have a YouTube, but we never use it, or here's this really old Facebook page that no one has access to, so we made a new one. This is the time to really get your hands dirty and sit down and figure out all of the social channels that your nonprofit is on. And then also taking a look at how often are you posting? Which ones are you utilizing? Is it a regular cadence, or is it just sort of sporadic whenever you have some time, right? So just kind of sit down and take a list of where you're at. And then from there, you might need some tech support. So as I mentioned, this happens all the time. I'll sit down with a new client and there's duplicate accounts. You've got that extra Facebook page from 5 years ago that needs to be removed or maybe merged into your existing page. Or maybe you have an account, but no one has access to it anymore. So this is a good time to start getting access to those things. And you can do so through support on each respective platform. But I've included on this slide, you will get a copy of the slides, some URLs that are really helpful. So for Facebook, if you follow that URL, you can actually chat with somebody in real time on Facebook Messenger. You'll need an ad account to do that. Otherwise, it's going to try to push you to do email support, which is going to take a little bit more time. But if you have an ad account, or if you can go ahead and create one to be able to chat with somebody in real time, they can help you. Facebook too, I hear all the time from clients that they'll have an issue where, you know, they don't have access anymore and they think hope is lost. You know, you can work with Facebook support and send them notarized documentation to get what you need. So that's a good URL for you. But beyond that, you know, there's one for Twitter or even LinkedIn. LinkedIn is nice as well. You can chat in real time with somebody. So those are just some links to help you if you do need some tech support. And then from there, okay, we've taken inventory, we figured out what we need to merge. Then you've got to look at your channels from a high level. Are you being consistent? This is another simple thing that I notice when I'll sit down with a new client of, do your profiles match? Oftentimes, you know, some of those channels you're not using and updating all the time might have fallen by the wayside, and you've got a really old logo that your organization isn't using anymore on your YouTube. Update that, make them all match. Or maybe your social handles, you know, you created different channels on different points in your nonprofit's history, so they don't really match or they're not really cohesive. You know, maybe you want to consider changing some of those and updating them. Is your contact information up to date? How awful would it be if people were trying to email you from your social email and it's the wrong one, right? So take a look, make sure everything's up to date. And same thing to your about information. This is another one. Oftentimes, you know, bios and things are written years and years ago, and if you haven't been using the platform as much, it's a little bit outdated. So I would just kind of compare all of your channels side by side that you're going to be using and make sure that everything's cohesive and clearly is all the same brand. So once we've taken inventory, the next place I like to look is finding your engagement rate. So at this point, I hear many of you going, but what about followers? And followers are great. Follower growth is a really important metric and a really important KPI that we do pay attention to. However, for me, I've always placed more emphasis on engagement. And the reason why is I would rather have 100 people that regularly care and advocate for my cause than 10,000 followers that don't really care. They're not engaging. They're not seeing what we're posting. You're not getting anything out of that from a marketing perspective. So I really like to focus in on engagement. And one of the ways that I go about this is taking a look at engagement rates. So that's there's a lot of different formulas you can do for this, but the one that I like that's tried and true is you can take a post or you can take a series of posts for the month. You're going to add up your likes, comments, and shares. So those are your reactions, and you divide it by your followers, times it by 100. That's going to give you your engagement rate. Rule of thumb for me, I like to see my clients within like a 3 to 5% engagement rate. Anything above that is great. You know, 10% is really my true goal. That's my stretch goal. But take inventory. So where are you at? So this is an example of Achieve. We had a free download not that long ago. So this was really good. Definitely had some really strong engagement. 13% engagement rate. So that was great. But sometimes if you're playing around with paid spend as well, you might have situations where your engagement rate exceeds your followers. This is taken from Achieve's Instagram. We actually don't have a ton of followers on Instagram yet, but sometimes we do amplify posts with some paid spend. So in this case, we reach more people than are following us. So that tells me, you know, I now have a group of people that I can go back and continue to engage with, right? So I like to focus on engagement. That, again, you're going to be getting these slides, so you'll be able to look back on that formula. You can also go ahead and if you're trying to find maybe what your engagement rate is for the month on a platform, you know, you want to add all of that up for each of your posts. and then divide it by how many posts for the month and find your overall engagement rate for the month as well, in addition to figuring out what your top performing posts were. So next, let's talk about some free tools you can be leveraging. I would say a really good step on social media, especially if you haven't been that consistent with it, or maybe you've only been posting on 1 or 2 platforms and you want to take more on, I would definitely consider looking at pre-scheduling some of your content. Now, obviously, pop-ups are still going to happen. You might get a really great press mention and you want to share the article. You might have an urgent appeal coming out and you want to put, hey, urgently, can someone foster this puppy today, right, on your social? Those things are unavoidable. But for the most part, you can build a really comprehensive content calendar for the month or the week, or 2 weeks at a time, and pre-schedule your content. There's a lot of them out there. A lot of them has an affordable cost or relatively low cost. But if your organization is really Facebook and Instagram heavy, which I do see is the case for a lot of the nonprofits we work with, Facebook Creator Studios is a completely free tool built into Facebook, and you can pre-schedule content for both Facebook and Instagram with that. Hootsuite still does offer a free version, although it is a little bit limited. You just have to go ahead and Google Hootsuite free version to get that. Otherwise, they're going to try to push you to get the paid version as well. But there's lots of pre-schedulers out there. Heorka is another really good one that I like as well. Pre-schedule your content. You want to be proactive versus reactive. Another great free tool that you should set up if you don't have it already is the Facebook giving tools. So probably all seen these already. You've got your donate button on your profile, the Facebook birthday fundraisers. Maybe you've seen some live streams, especially during peak of COVID. A lot of people were doing their events virtually. If you had these tools, you were able to put a donate button on that live stream, or even just adding a donate button to your post. If you're not sure if you have this, or if you know that you don't need to set it up, it's really easy. You just go to facebook.com/donate/sign up. And you follow the steps there to attach your organization's banking information to Facebook. The nice thing about this, there's no processing fees. So all the money you raise is going to go straight to you. It also, once you have your Facebook donation account set up, it's going to unlock the Instagram giving tools as well. So whether that's putting a little sticker on your Instagram stories, or if you're doing some peer-to-peer fundraising and you have a big group of people that are going to be sharing to their Instagram stories with a donate button, you'll need to have a Facebook donation account to access that. If you want to add a donate button to your profile, same thing. You can also live stream and raise money through Instagram now as well. I did 2 blogs as those features have rolled out. So again, you'll get the slides, but here's the URLs to those. Both of those blogs really break down step by step, how to get that button onto your profile on Instagram, or how to use some of these other new tools. So it's completely free. I hear a lot too from nonprofits that are concerned about, well, we don't really want to fundraise that way. We'd rather everybody go to our website. Totally hear you. You know, in social media, Facebook fundraising in general, not the be all end all. It's just an extra tool in your toolkit. But it is free to set up. So I always encourage you to set that up and meet your donors where they are. If someone's on your Instagram and they want to give you money right then and there in the app, let them. Make it easy for them to give to you, right? So to set that up, again, here's your URL for that. You'll be getting the slides. Another free tool that you should be using, even if you have 0 plans to use it today, is to add a Facebook pixel to your website. It's a small snippet of code that goes on your website. It's really, really impactful when you're doing advertising on Facebook, because you can have all of your conversion tracking to see, you know, who donated, how many, down to the penny, what the conversion was on your ads. But beyond that, it's also going to be collecting data. So even if you have no plan to use your Facebook pixel today, you don't think you're going to be doing any advertising anytime soon, still put this on your website, because what it's going to enable you to do in, say, 6 months from now, maybe you want to take that on. You can actually go into Facebook and create custom audiences with your pixel data. So you can say, hey, Facebook, I want to target people that have been on my donate page in the past 90 days, and I want to send them this ad. Or you can even say, hey, Facebook, these are the people that have donated to me in the past 90 days. Now go find people that look like that in my demographic area. So again, it's completely free to install. And it's just a good best practice to have, even if you're not going to be using it for a while, because it's going to start to collect data about your visitors and learn, and it can help you on the audience targeting side of things. If you're not sure if your website already has a Facebook pixel, no worries. There's a free Chrome extension that you can download called Facebook Pixel Helper. And you can go to any website, click that little button, and it'll tell you if you have a pixel ID on your site already. I find this really helpful for troubleshooting with new clients too. You know, again, going back to the organizations that maybe you had a Facebook page and now you don't have access to it, and there was a business manager and you don't know who has what. You can go on and you can find that pixel ID, which is right here on the screen, and then go back and compare that to what you do have access to figure out, you know, do I have the right pixel on my site as well. There also is, it's worth mentioning, LinkedIn also, they have upped their advertising game quite a bit the past year or so. So there's a LinkedIn Insight tag that operates very similarly as Facebook Pixel, also free. So if you do anything in the LinkedIn space, or you think you may be doing some LinkedIn advertising because you're a university, for instance, that's another free resource for you that's worth tossing on your website, even if you're not going to do anything with it right now. Another thing worth mentioning is you should always be tracking where your web traffic is coming from. You know, when we're doing fundraising campaigns, typically they're going to be multi-channel. So, of course, you got your traditional stuff on the direct mail side of things, but on digital, you know, if it's coming from email, if it's coming from Facebook, if it's coming from LinkedIn, you know, I want to know exactly what channels are driving traffic to my donation page and which ones are converting. So to do that, I've already mentioned Facebook Pixel and LinkedIn Insight tag. But Google Analytics, if you don't have that set up on your website, that's another free tool you should absolutely get set up today. Google Tag Manager is another one that's going to help you with your keeping track of your UTM codes that you're creating to kind of add to URLs. And then you're really going to want to create tracking links as well. I use Google URL Campaign Builder for the most part. It's completely free. But for that, that's really great because you can go ahead and add in those UTM codes to your URL. So you can take, you know, if you're driving somebody to a landing page for a fundraiser that you're doing, you can attach the codes that, okay, this is coming from Facebook social and it's a post, or Facebook social, it's an ad. So that way when you're going into your Google Analytics, you can see where all of your different traffic is coming from. But with any kind of digital marketing efforts, including social media, you should absolutely be tracking where your traffic is coming from. Got a little bit of free homework for you as well. If you go to achievecauses.com/free-tools, there is a free download called the Online Giving Checklist. Social media is, again, it's just a small tool in a very big digital marketing toolkit. So this will kind of help you take inventory of your website and some of your social efforts to make sure that you are set up. So that's a free tool for you. So we've talked about some free tools, we've talked about taking inventory of your channels, and we've talked about finding your engagement rates. But let's discuss how to avoid some common social media pitfalls. So the first one that I see most of the time is related to content. And it comes from being reactive instead of proactive. So be strategic. Develop an annual social strategy based around your organization's priority. When you're sitting down and you're planning for the whole year, social media needs to be part of that conversation. You know, what are your goals for social media specifically and as an organization? Is there a need to educate people about your mission? Is there a disconnect happening where maybe you have a lot of new followers, but they don't really understand what you do yet? You need to educate them. Or maybe you're trying to grow your number of volunteers this year. That's a big effort. So that should definitely be part of your social media strategy. Are you trying to drive more online donations, more online traffic? You're considering some peer-to-peer campaigns. All of that should be tied into your marketing strategy, but also your social media strategy. Whenever I'm coming up with content for a content calendar, I also like to take a step back and look at key dates to consider. You know, when are your galas and your events? Giving days, are you doing Giving Tuesday? That's coming up November 30th this year. I see it happen every year. 2 weeks before, we get a lot of frantic calls of organizations that want help with their Giving Tuesday efforts, but truly that you should be having those conversations in the summertime. August, by end of September at the absolute latest, you should be locked and loaded and know exactly what your plan is for Giving Tuesday. You could go small and just kind of have some content leading up to it for a few weeks, or ideally you can bake that into your end of year fundraising strategy. Another free tool for you that's on the Achieve website, if you go under the resources tab, there is an end of year planner. So every week from September to the end of the year, it has tasks for you to complete to help you with your end of year fundraising, baking in Giving Tuesday into that as part of it. So checking out giving days. Also just looking at, days, weeks, or months of awareness that might be relevant to you. National Women's Health Week is in May. Animal cruelty prevention is in April. World Suicide Prevention is coming up in September. Depending on what your organization does and what your mission is, you may want to bake that into your higher level marketing strategies as well. So be strategic, really take a step back and think about what are you trying to accomplish with social and why, versus sitting down at your computer to make a post and go, what should I talk about today, right? Think about what are you trying to accomplish and reverse engineer. And then the next step is once you figure out what you should be talking about, then you need to figure out how to speak to your audience about that. Try to think about when you're writing copy or putting together content, think about it from a supporter standpoint. Social media really isn't about you. It's about your supporters or your clients that you serve potentially. So think about who you're speaking to. Do they understand you already? Or maybe they need some education? Do they need to learn a little bit more about you? Or are there maybe some misunderstandings about what you do? Also take a look at your past posts. Have you only been self-promoting? Was your engagement good on those, or was it a little bit lacking? Do you have more of a content mix? You want to make it a blend. It can't just be me all the time, right? Another place to look at, are you sharing impact stories? Are you crediting your success to supporters? On social, this is so great as well because you can cross-promote sometimes, tagging a sponsor or, maybe tagging that foundation if they want the accolades, or maybe even other people that you work with in your community, tagging them in that content can help amplify it. It gives them shareable content that they want to then go cross-promote to their audience, but then it's still tied back to you, right? So looking for those opportunities. Another thing that I always recommend is repurposing content. If you have a really great article that came out about your organization, I see a lot of organizations, you share it one time, maybe include it in your email newsletter and call it a day. That article probably could have been sliced and diced into multiple pieces of content on lots of different platforms, whether it's pulling different quotes from the article, pulling different photos. You can really repurpose that content and use it over time as well. So whenever I'm creating any kind of content, if you're going to spend time on it, I like to think about how many different ways can I use this one thing just differently for each platform. And then another thing too that really helps when you're putting together your content is, do you make the ask? Are your call to actions clear? Sometimes I'll be scrolling and I'll see a really great post. They'll have, the video and, I'm all in on the mission and it's asking for support, but then it doesn't have any clear, learn more, click here, or donate now, here's the URL. Make it easy for your supporters to do something if you're asking them to do it. So again, take a step back at your social when you're auditing your past efforts and see what posts people have been engaging with most. Are there any commonalities there? And who are you talking to? You're talking to the core audience that you're trying to reach. Another thing too, if your social media is tying into your fundraising efforts, try to remember why people give. Typically people give because they recognize there's a problem and they think that your organization's working to solve that. So by extension, if they support you, they're in turn making a difference themselves. Empathy sustains charity. So especially if you're doing those Giving Tuesday posts, think about, what's the problem? How are you solving it? And how can somebody else be part of that solution, right? And another kind of note for social media, I really love this quote by Amy Jo Martin. Social media, it's a dialogue, it's not a monologue. Social media is more like a telephone than a television. And I do see this as a common mistake where people, you're posting all the time, but it's me. It's not trying to get that conversation going. Or worse, not responding to people. If you have people commenting or sending you direct messages, you want to take advantage of that and open up the conversation further. It's a two-way street. So to engage on social, of course, there's lots of ways. It depends on the platform. But if, Facebook and Instagram seem to be what most nonprofits are on, so I pick on that one the most. Business.facebook.com, you can use your inbox to respond to both Facebook and Instagram messages and comments all in one place. You can even assign different messages to different people within your organization. So if you have a larger team that's helping you with social and you're getting a lot of questions regularly, coming up with a process for that might be really helpful for you. But again, when you're taking inventory, go through, have you been responding to everybody's direct messages regularly? I had a client not too long ago, they had people reaching out wanting to donate to them, and they never got a response. That's a bummer. I've had another one where they had a group of kids come in and volunteer from a high school, and they had an amazing experience, and they were DMing them about how great it was. And then they reached back out a few months later to ask for an update. No one responded to them. It's probably really disappointing. You had this group of people that were really engaged and really excited about your organization. They didn't hear from you. So make sure you're responding to people right away. Also engaging with comments in your content. On Instagram, if someone's like, wow, I love all the work that you're doing, that's a great time to respond and say thank you. But beyond that, try to turn it into a conversation. Ask them a question. Try to get to know them a little bit better and get some of that back and forth. Also, too, especially if you're looking to build your community online a little bit, look for other content to engage with, other accounts, whether that's other nonprofits in a similar space as you in other parts of the country, or people that may have an affinity for what you do. If you are focused on recycling, there's all kinds of hashtags and geotags that you can search to find other people that are doing some of that volunteer work already that may have an affinity for you. So look for new people that you can engage with as well. And then beyond that, advertising has definitely been a game changer in the past few years. Facebook and Instagram in particular, it's become an increasingly pay-to-play space. Usually only about 1 to 3% of your followers will even organically see your content in their feed. So amplifying that with paid spend is going to be really important if you're trying to ensure that your supporters are seeing your content. There's lots and lots of ways that you can do this on all social platforms, but especially Facebook and Instagram. If you've been playing around with this, I would recommend using Ads Manager versus doing it, like the boosted posts through your page. You're going to get way more audience targeting options from Ads Manager. You can even upload your own list. So if you have lists of past donors, for instance, you can upload that into Facebook and then have them go match that up with people and target ads to them. So if you wanted to do an impact video talking about Update, that's a list of people that probably should be seeing that video. So you can do all of that with paid spend. And as I mentioned, I definitely recommend using Ads Manager over the boost button on the page. You're going to get way more targeting options, way more campaign options, a lot more tools. So definitely do that. If you're not sure where to start with Facebook ads and you want to start taking it on yourself, Facebook Blueprint is an amazing free resource that Facebook creates. They have modules and like lesson plans and all kinds of tracks that you can do to learn literally anything and everything you've ever wanted to know about Facebook and Instagram advertising. So that's a really, really great tool. I still use it all the time. Social media is constantly evolving. Tactics I was doing 2 years ago with my clients, some of them are obsolete now. So whenever something new rolls out, especially for Facebook and Instagram, Facebook Blueprint's where I always go for step one to see what the new modules are to learn. So don't be afraid to learn. Check out Facebook Blueprint if you want to learn how to do ads yourself, or there's tons of people in the space, myself included, that offer services to do that. But in general, I find that your social efforts should be laddering up to your goals as an organization. And I see that disconnect a lot, where social media is just kind of this reactive thing and you're posting because you think you have to versus thinking about how to strategically use it for what you're trying to achieve. So at that being said, we've got plenty of time for questions. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over, and I'm happy to hang out with all of you for the next 30 minutes or so until the questions run out.
We got through that really quickly. So that was a lot of information, Erica. Thank you. We actually do have a couple questions. So for those that are still mulling over your questions, feel free to put them into the question area. But Christy has asked, how do I get rid of old Instagram accounts that no one has a password for and set up by like an old username? No idea who they were.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back way back in here to get you that URL. Tech support slide way at the beginning. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to reach out to Facebook. Your best way to do it is this URL here. If you have an ads manager, that's great. I would even just mark it as being an ad account issue. So you can get to Facebook chat in Messenger, so you can talk to somebody in real time. But from there, I'm not a Facebook support rep, but from dealing with them for many years, I would imagine that they're going to need some kind of notarized documentation from you, where you're basically going to outline what the issue is and what you want done. And then you'll need to provide some documentation to prove that you are who you say you are. But you can submit that to them, and they should be able to help get that taken down for you. That also applies for if you have, an old Facebook page that no one in your organization has access to. Notarized documentation through Facebook support is going to get you there as well, to get you back on. And they can even add whoever from your organization as an admin to the page. So that's going to be your best bet.
Well, thank you. I know I've run into that before, who to reach out to at these big companies. Okay, sure. So a couple other questions have come in. Tiffany is saying, with Facebook and Instagram giving, is there a way to gain donor information?
There is, yes. So if you go on your Facebook page into your settings, if you have your Facebook donation account set up, so this would mean that you've gone ahead and you've put your banking information is attached, not the one that's through Networks for Good where they mail you a check every couple of months or whatever the heck it is. If you have a Facebook donation account set up already, this is your URL to check if you're not sure. Assuming that you are set up, when you go into your Facebook page, into your settings tab, there should be a fundraiser tab. From there, you can export different reports. You can export transaction reports and donation reports. Admittedly, your data is going to be a little bit limited. That's based on Facebook's privacy settings, and also they do allow donors to opt out if they don't want you to have their email information, for instance. But that is where you would go to export those reports.
Thank you. Thank you. A couple other questions have come in. Chris is asking how to create a Facebook pixel.
Facebook pixel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll need to do that from your business manager. So that's going to be business.facebook.com. Oops, and I'm going the wrong way. I'm trying to scroll down to it for you. Pixel, here you go. Here is where you can learn more about the URL here, facebook.com/business. You've got your Pixel manual install. That's going to walk you through step-by-step how to create the Pixel from your business manager, as well as how to install that on your website.
Gotcha. And just remember, we are sending out all of these slides, so you'll have all that information if you're not getting it jotted down. Chuck would like to know a bit more about donation buttons on Instagram, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So donation button on Instagram, once you have your Facebook donation account set up, you can go ahead and link that up to your Instagram as well. So you can set up the donate button to be on your profile. It's one of your call to actions. So right next to your contact button, you can have a donate button. You can also do stickers and stories. So stickers are a sticker that you put on top of your Instagram story. Other people can use the donate stickers on your behalf, or you can use it on your own Instagram stories as well. So with that, if someone's seeing your story, they can click that donate button right on your Instagram story and donate within the app. You can also do live streaming. So if you want to do a live stream fundraiser on Instagram, same thing, your organization can do it, or someone can do it on your behalf. But if someone's watching the live stream, they can click that donate button and donate right in the Instagram app.
Okay, that's a lot. And remember, everyone, we're going to give you Erica's and the Achieve team's contact information too, if you do have follow-up stuff that we're not able to get to today. Jamie has said, I took a few Facebook courses on ads, did everything right, and still got banned. I Googled around and found that we are one of many organizations to whom this has happened. They give us the runaround when we try to go through the automated appeal process. Do you have any tips on how to recover from something like this? We haven't been able to run ads since, and it's terrible.
Yeah, so a couple of things could be going on there. One, with a lot of the last election cycle and even just the past 2 years of Facebook, they have changed their policies and their rules around ads about social importance. And I find that most of our clients do fall underneath that. It could be things like education, poverty, lots of health and human service type organizations fall under this policy clarification. So you may need to go ahead and set up a disclaimer for your ad account and your Facebook page. So for instance, if I'm working with like a legal aid society, I often do have to have that disclaimer and mark my ads as of social importance to avoid sort of getting banned and having the issue in the first place. But assuming the cat's out of the bag and you've got to solve the problem, right? I would recommend going to the Facebook support chat that I mentioned. So that URL, getting to somebody in real time that you can message with to talk to versus the email system. Another thing I found with Facebook, if you are for some reason forced into the email only support, respond right away. After 24 hours, a lot of those reps will deprioritize something. I find that when I respond right away, keeps the ball rolling and I get much better support than if I sit on an email for a few days. And I work with Facebook reps directly and they all tell me the same thing. So if you are getting email support, respond right away. Otherwise, your best bet would try to be get into that support chat. You can talk to someone in real time.
I'm hoping this is useful for everyone. I'm learning a lot here. Caitlin is asking, what are your thoughts on utilizing Facebook groups versus pages? I know the algorithm prioritizes group content and we seem to be losing a lot of traffic for pages.
Yeah, so they're two different things, right? I think of your Facebook page is a little bit more of a landing page for your organization, almost like a website. So that's somewhere you're someone who doesn't know a lot about you. Maybe they're getting an ad, they're going to click through, you're going to go to their page. You want that to be content that's going to quickly tell them, who you are, what they do, show you what's going on in the organization. Whereas groups is a really great way to engage with people on a regular basis. So you're right. The algorithm prioritizes groups, so people are more likely to see that content in your feed. So I see that being really impactful for if you already have a dedicated group of volunteers or a committee, maybe you have this alliance of supporters. Groups are really good to foster your existing supporters, whereas you still want to post regularly on your page, but your engagement rate would be lower there because less people are seeing it unless you're doing paid spend. But you're also not talking directly to someone that you already know is locked and loaded and sold on your mission.
All right, well, thank you on that one. Several more questions, great questions coming in. Christy's question is the engagement percentage rate a weekly number?
So engagement rate, you can do that for a single post. You can do that if you want to look at the week. You can do that for a month. You can do that for a year. So the calculation I gave you would be to do it on a single post. But if you wanted to do it for a whole week of posts, you could add up all of your engagements for the week and then divide that by how many posts there were to get your average and then work into the formula. So I like to look at engagement rates from all levels.
Another great one here. Bonnie is saying, you mentioned Facebook Ad Manager and that it can take a list of our past donors and target ads to those who have given. What is that service and how do I find out about it? Is it expensive?
It's free.
I'd say that's not expensive.
No, you have to pay for the ad placement. So that's where the cost comes in. But to do that, so you're going to do that from Business Manager. If you have a Business Manager or if you don't have one, it's just business.facebook.com to get it set up. Within Business Manager, you go to Audiences. It's a tab, and then you can create custom audiences. So one of the options for creating a custom audience would be to upload your own data. You can also do it from your web traffic, your web data. If you have the Facebook Pixel installed, You can also even create custom audiences based on your own social content. So what I like to do a lot, if we're rolling into a fundraising campaign, for instance, maybe we have a series of videos to introduce what the campaign is and what the mission is. And then we're going to create a custom audience in Business Manager to say, okay, I want to go back and retarget anybody who watched that video to 90% completion. And then that's going to be my next audience to go back and serve them new ads that are maybe a little bit more direct, making an ask, right? So there's tons of things you can do in Ads Manager and Business Manager for custom audience creation.
Wow, thank you.
Sure.
And well, it's not just me saying thank you. Sarah is saying thank you for all this info, Erica.
Sure.
What about hashtags? Are they still a thing? How often and when should we use them?
Yeah, so hashtags, it kind of depends on the platform. Instagram, they're definitely alive and well. It's how people can search for things and be discoverable and find new things. So I definitely recommend on Instagram doing hashtag banks. And I like to do them in the comment section, but you could also do them after the posts themselves. But you can do up to 30 hashtags in your hashtag bank. I like to do a blend of those, some that are going to be really big hashtags, but also some that are more niche to what I'm talking about. Facebook, on the other hand, I don't see a ton of engagement difference. If anything, I find if you do too many hashtags on Facebook, you lose engagement. So usually for Facebook, I'm only using maybe one hashtag for like a campaign. If there's a branded fundraising campaign going on, that'll be included on everything. Otherwise, I tend to leave it alone. Or if it's, maybe a social media holiday, like ice cream day or something, it might make sense to use. So I don't do a ton on Facebook. Twitter, definitely I like to work in 2 or 3 hashtags into that. Same reason, makes you discoverable. So it varies case by case basis.
Thank you. Thank you. From Clay, with Facebook donations, is there any way to collect more donor information? The multi-day transaction report just provides a first and last name and nothing else to go on.
Yeah, that's correct. Sometimes you can get email if people have opted into that. So that same report, if they've opted into letting the organization have email, you'll get that information. There also are some third-party tools that you can pay for that sometimes give you more of that information. But in terms of what you can export from Facebook, that's going to be based on their privacy settings.
Gotcha. All righty. Jonathan saying our interactions and reach are increasing, but we aren't gaining followers as quickly as we had been. What might be happening and what can I do?
What platform is it? Would you mind me asking?
Jonathan, if you're still on and you want to, if you are able to answer what platform, we'll come back to your question while we see if Jonathan's able to answer that. Cheryl has one for you. How do you best use a separate event page on Facebook for an event? I seem to have difficulty connecting them back to our main page and find that people cannot post pictures on the event page. For this reason, I've stopped making event pages, but it may be something I'm missing.
Yeah, so some of that does come into your settings when you're creating the event. There's options to select that people can post within the event or not. Personally, though, I tend to not use event pages as sort of its own entity. I like to use events as a way to raise awareness. So you would create the Facebook event, and then you can go and you can invite people to it or even run ads to get people to RSVP to it. That's the power that I find with Facebook events, is that it's the algorithm likes when, hey, Kim, Erica has said she's interested in this event. So now it's showing it to Kim that I'm interested in the event. So now she's seeing it, and then maybe she's marking it interested. So 10 more of her friends are seeing, right? So it's using that peer-to-peer collective impact of Facebook events that I find impactful versus treating it as this hub where all you're talking about within the event is the event. Although you can use it that way, depending on what you're doing. I've seen some good examples of that, but I tend to use it more as an awareness tool.
Okay. And Jonathan, by the way, did get back in, so I'm going to re-ask his question, but it is Instagram. So our interactions and reach are increasing, but we aren't gaining followers as quickly as we had been. What might be happening? What can I do?
Yeah. So this is not a sexy answer, but it's the real one. Manual engagement. Whenever I have a client that's struggling with that, I get my team where maybe it's 30 minutes a day. They're going to sit down and they're going to go see who's engaged with the recent posts, and they're going to go to their profile and like their content, maybe leave a comment that might be relevant to them, try to get that back and forth conversation going, or even going and finding new accounts that you want to follow and engage with, leaving those open-ended comments on their posts and their content. You know, again, treating it more like a dialogue. If you commit to that of, okay, 30 minutes every day, this is what we're going to do, over time, you will start to see that snowball move. The other option that you have for Instagram specifically is you can run ads for profile views. So if you have a clear understanding of, you know, who your donor is or who your audience is, you can serve ads to people like that, encouraging them to visit your profile, and that will also help to boost your following.
All right. Hopefully, Jonathan, that helps there. Julie is asking, is it good to choose followers and their friends as target group?
It depends on what it is. So if you're doing just, I'm assuming you're doing post elevation, right? So you're going to take a post and you want to place some spend behind it. You could do that. For me, I tend to like to be a little bit more intentional with my ad audiences. So if I'm looking for supporters, I might be creating an audience that's people that already follow and engage with me on social, my list of people that I know are supporters, and then also maybe retargeting someone who's been on my donation page in the past X number of days, and then also lives in an area within the right age ranges and has interests, behaviors that are similar to my mission and what I'm trying to accomplish. So I like to get a little bit more direct and narrow down my audience. But if you're just looking for wide reach and you just want everybody that follows you to see a certain post, that's not a bad audience to go after. But I like to be a little bit more narrowed down most of the time.
To attract more attention, how should our posts look? So I guess a design question, perhaps, not just content.
Yeah. So visuals are always great. I would always say if you're just doing text for right now, add a photo. Always add a photo as a minimum, even if it's a stock photo. So that's kind of step one. Video content, the algorithms tend to like that. So that's being prioritized across a lot of platforms, including LinkedIn right now. So you can't go wrong with video. Video, I like to keep pretty short for social for the most part. 15 seconds is a sweet spot, but 30 seconds is okay. Lots of free tools for that. Even if you're using Canva or some of the free, design software, they have some animations now where maybe it's just a little arrow, and even though it's the same thing, now the algorithm's going to read that as a video instead of a static image. I will say I personally don't recommend graphics most of the time unless it is for a really branded campaign. The reason why is it just doesn't look organic. If someone's scrolling, they immediately see the graphic, they know that they're being they're being marketed to, and they're more likely to keep scrolling. So I like more of an organic feel. I also recommend, emulating the platform. If you're on TikTok, that content is totally different than what's going on your Facebook page, right? So see what other people that are successful on the platform are doing, and maybe try to emulate some of that.
And I'm really happy you mentioned Canva, and I know I don't think it's in your presentation, so maybe we want to highlight that, what that tool is for folks that don't know.
Yeah, so Canva is a really easy way to make graphic design for yourself. They have all kinds of templates and tools. They have paid versions as well as free versions, and that can be used for all kinds of things, not just social media. If you need a hero image for a landing page for your fundraiser on your website, you can do all of that in Canva as well. So it's a really affordable or free graphic design tool.
And that's canva.com. So think of Canvas without the S. I use it myself. I love it.
Yeah.
Joe.
I also really like PicMonkey. PicMonkey is another really good one. It emulates Photoshop a little bit with the layers and everything, and has some additional photo editing tools that I really like. So that's another one that's free or affordable.
Good to know. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
So Joe is asking, what is the difference between your engagement formula and insight numbers within platforms?
Yeah, so insight numbers within platforms, there's all kinds of metrics and things that you can get. You know, for instance, on Facebook, you can look at, you know, how many minutes of video were watched on each individual video within certain time ranges and things. You could also, depending on what platform you're on or where you're looking in your insights, you might be able to pull some of those engagement numbers already. But the engagement formula that I gave, you know, that's really looking at either one post specifically or a series of posts within a time frame to say, you know, this is how many followers I have on the platform compared to how many people are regularly engaging with my content. I want that percentage number, which you're usually not going to get from like Facebook Insights. They're usually going to give you, you know, 1,000 people reached and, you know, 20 reactions, right? Okay, well, but what does that mean in terms of your following? It's relative to your following. That's the important metric.
Gotcha. A question here. I started our social media accounts for our nonprofit through my personal accounts. I know I can create other admins on Facebook, but how do I do that on Instagram and Twitter?
You can't. They need the login. You're going to share the login. But no, with Instagram, to be fair, if you have a business manager, which I would recommend most organizations do, you can assign people to your Facebook and Instagram page, and then they can schedule content for you on Instagram through Creator Studios, or they can also respond to comments and messages on Instagram through the inbox in Business Manager. So that's a workaround if you don't want to give them the password, but you still want them to be able to engage. But otherwise, they would need the login information as well.
Gotcha. And then Joseph is asking, do you suggest all video posts include subtitles on Facebook?
Yes, 100 times yes. Most people actually do not listen to video on social with the volume on. So always put captions, whether that's the auto captions that Facebook can offer. It's just a box you check. Don't recommend that, but it's better than nothing, or just baking it into your video.
Now, a follow-up question also from Joseph on this same topic. Are there suggested tools for subtitles?
Sure. So there's tons of, you know, video editing tools in the world. I mean, everything from iMovie, if you're a Mac person, to, you know, like Magisto, or Animoto is another one out there. There's even apps you can do on your phone, like KeepVid or Splice. So there's tons and tons out there, but I would say, you know, keep it simple. If you're not a video editor, you know, don't try to figure out how to use some crazy professional software. You know, find an app you like and go for it. Progress over perfection.
Now, I hope I understand this question from Jarucha. Can you give me a good trip for LinkedIn content? I'm wondering if maybe trip got auto-corrected.
Okay.
Tip?
A good tip for LinkedIn content. So I think it depends on who you're talking to on LinkedIn. And I think for most nonprofits, you're either talking to, you know, community partners, your board, you know, maybe some of your supporters. So a lot of that content's probably going to be more of your press releases, your annual reports, your impact statements, or things that are shareable. So, hey, thank you for everybody who was on our XYZ committee. You made this event such a success, and you tag all of the committee members, giving them content they can share on LinkedIn, right? That content typically tends to be different than what you're probably posting on Instagram.
So far, if anyone has any more questions, we'll be winding down. We have a few more minutes. I actually have a follow-up question for you, Erica. You mentioned TikTok,
Sure.
And I know it wasn't part of your presentation today, and it's such a big thing we keep hearing so much about. So what are your thoughts about TikTok?
Yeah, so I think TikTok is definitely an up-and-coming platform, especially if your audience leans younger. I want to say about 60% of TikTokers are like under 24, so certainly it is younger leaning. TikTok, it can do a lot. It's very popular, but I think what's really important about TikTok is the type of content that you're sharing on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It can't be the same as what you're putting on TikTok. TikTok needs to be really organic to that platform. And it does take time to create all of those video clips and keep up on the challenges. However, if that's something that you're dipping your toe into, there are free tools for TikTok as well. If you go online to TikTok's main business website, I forget the URL, but you can Google it and find it. You can actually search and see like what's trending for the day or the week, and you can see like what challenges are cool right now. So that can help you come up with your videos and things for TikTok as a tool just to kind of see what else is going on. But TikTok changes fast. So if there's a new dance challenge out and it's trending on Monday, you need to be out by Wednesday posting it. Sorry,
all right. I think this is our last question. Can you hear me okay, Erica?
Sure.
Nicole is asking, as far as post and comment responses, should they come from the organization or more personalized from a person within the organization? Any caveats such as liability, dealing with staff changes, etc.?
Yeah, I would recommend it coming from the brand page versus an individual. For me as a user, if I'm leaving a comment on an organization or a brand and then an individual person is responding to me, that would be surprising. I don't necessarily know you, so why are you responding to my question? I'm looking for the brand authority. The exception to that would be if someone's direct messaging you and has a question that someone within your team would be best to ask and you want to connect them, you could share that information for a call or an email or something. But responding to comments.
Wow. Well, Erica, this has just been incredible. There's been some thank yous in the chats about how great all this information and how helpful it's been. So thank you again for joining us today. And
sure.
Thanks to everyone else that's online still with us for joining. We will be emailing you the recording of today with the presentation with the links that Erica has shared with us. There'll be some other great resources, including a link to a special offer from a chief for QGive friends. So if you do want to reach out to the QGive or a chief team, the contact information here is on this last slide. Please don't forget to complete the survey. We hope truly that everything we covered today helps you understand the integral relationship with marketing and fundraising and social media. So thanks again, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.